I am really, really interested in pouring into people in the firm. And so if there's a way for me to spend time getting to know them, understand what their little hurdles or challenges are, I tell them I've made every mistake in the book. And so if I can spitball with you, if I can talk about how are you going to go in and make this presentation when you're worried about this or you're unsure about that, let's practice. Let's try it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Biz Dev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I'm David Baxter, your host, and I am joined in a special episode by Kristen Hess, who has so many titles it's impossible to name them all. Let me see if I can try. All right. You are the CEO of HH Architecture. You are the co-chair of Friends of Note for the Symphony.
Yes.
You are the co-chair, is that the correct title, for the Chamber?
Chair-elect.
Chair-elect, excuse me. I know you're some big to do at the Girl Scouts, but I don't know your title.
I'm a board member. I'm an officer.
Okay. I know that's not all of them. Am I missing any of your faves?
Those are the big ones.
Those are the big ones. Okay. So my first question is, first, welcome. Thank you for doing this, especially in our live kind of weird environment we have here.
Thank you for having me.
How do you do all of it? That's my very first question. That's a lot. You're running the company, which I know a little bit about. It's not nearly the size of yours, but it's still a company. And you're doing all this extra stuff. I guess the simple question is, has your job as CEO changed to the point that your job is to be in all those kinds of things? Because some people, that is their job, right? Like the bank people we see at the chamber all the time, their job is just to go and mingle 100% of the time. Has that become your job?
I would say that it's definitely a part of my job.
Yeah.
It's important to me to build the brand and get our name out there. It's important for me to give back in my community. I believe in philanthropy and civic service. And so that's a really big part, I think, of who we are as a firm. And so actually, it's not just me that's out in the community doing a lot of work. It's a lot of us because we are a civic-minded, community-based firm.
Oh, let me ask selfishly, how much, I don't know if there's a nice way to ask this, so I apologize. How much of that is to build your business rather than the philanthropic side?
I don't know that I could put a metric on it. I think that I'm a big believer that you get out of what you put into something.
Sure.
And so I'm not doing it just to get contracts or business, but I certainly don't mind.
You're not going to say no if someone wants to give you one?
But actually, I don't really think you go to these events and people hand you contracts. It's just not the way.
Certainly not been my experience.
It's really more where we want to be a part of the conversation. We want to be part of our ecosystem and our community. And then really all it does is hopefully give us some street cred. People have heard of us before. We're a little more just seen and known. Every once in a while you get a referral or something like that. But I think more importantly, it's just, if I'm going to live here and I'm going to have my business here and this region has done so much for my business, I really need to give back. That's the way I see it.
So I joined the chamber because Patty told me to. Patty, for those who don't know Patty, she is one of those connector people. I guess that's the easiest way. She's been around forever. She's semi-retired, but she still knows everyone, and she adopts people. She adopted me a year ago from this podcast, strangely enough. And she said, you have to join the chamber. I'm like, okay, sure. And I'm one of two software companies in the chamber, so they're rare, right? Most of them are bankers, architects, and construction people. So that's been a very interesting experience. But then I met Gary Green, who is one of my favorite people. He was, at that time, your position. He was the chair-elect when I met him. And he said, I built my entire business through my connections at the chamber. And I'm like, that sounds great. I would like to do that. But I think that was unique to Gary, because Gary is special.
Gary is special.
But I joined committees and this and the other, following in those similar footsteps, Patty, because she's like, that exposure matters. And the reason I'm asking all of these questions is I'm wondering, because our audience is entrepreneurs, new business owners, people who are trying to take themselves either in the first step or the next step, right? And so one of those questions is getting involved good for their business. Would you say yes or no on that?
Absolutely, I would say yes. Obviously, I believe in the chamber, or I wouldn't be in the chair-elect position.
Sure.
But I think shout out to how special Patty Bergoglio is. She ran a very successful PR firm. And I would say that some small businesses can't afford to hire a PR firm. And so your social capital, all of your work in networking in the chamber and helping and then getting noticed is your way, grassroots, of sort of building some reputation.
It's fair. So let me take a step back. You are celebrating your 20th year at
Yes.
HH Architecture, which is very, very cool. For North Carolina, correct me if I'm wrong, you have rented out the big Ferris wheel, right? At the fairgrounds?
The State Fair flyer.
State Fair flyer for guests to come.
Ski lift ride.
Okay.
And we're hosting a big celebration tomorrow night for our 20th anniversary and inviting all our friends, clients, families. It's a big old birthday party celebration.
That is so much fun. So I think we did a 10-year thing, but it was only our people. Like no one else was allowed. So when we get to 20, maybe we'll
We
expand
put it on social media, so everyone's welcome.
That's fair. That's fair. So let's go back 20 years. You started, now 20 years ago, had you already been an architect for a while?
Yes. I had been out of school for 8 years and working for another firm. And probably 5 years into that, I had become a licensed architect. And I really wasn't thinking that I would actually start a firm at that time.
Okay.
This was 2005. And I just thought maybe I'd had a baby and everything changed.
Always a good time to start a business.
Yeah. Had a baby, and my old job, they hadn't really had a lot of experience with new parents. I don't think that they really quite knew how to handle it. And they weren't bad. It was just getting different and hard. So I just was looking for a job, actually. Because I'd been there 8 years, I thought it's probably a good idea. Maybe I should work somewhere else. I don't know. Just see what's out there. And I interviewed with several firms, and several of the firms I interviewed with said, we would like you to open and grow a Raleigh office for us.
Okay. So these are big national firms.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was an eye-opening statement. I hadn't thought of myself as being capable of doing that at that juncture. I knew one day I wanted to have my own firm, but I thought, maybe when I'm 60.
That's interesting. So you're 5 years in, and they're saying, hey, we want you to start a whole new office. That's
5 years. I was 8 years in.
8 years in.
8 years in.
Still, that seems like I'm thinking, I guess, mindset similar. I want 20 years to go in, especially a big firm, big name, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Why do you think, was it just something unique about you, do you think? That's hard for you to answer, of course, but.
That's the way they framed it. I was well connected, and they were new to market, and thought that I was
Something
maybe
special.
something to bet on. I don't know.
Obviously, it worked.
But I just decided that I didn't want to do that for somebody else.
Yeah.
I thought about it. I thought about how hard I would work. I thought about how, I thought I'll kill myself for somebody else, and I'll build it for them, and then I'll at some point want to go do it again for myself.
And make someone else rich, that's great.
It doesn't sound like a good idea. In terms of actually landing a contract that put us on the map, it was 4 months. And that's kind of part of the story as to why we're hosting this party at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
Because the very first building, the very first client that trusted us was the Department of Agriculture for the state of North Carolina. And it was a new building at the state fair. And I love the state fair. I
Sure.
was like, who doesn't want to do a building at the state fair? So we put in for it and got it. And I couldn't really believe that we got it when we got it as a 4-month-old company. And it meant so much to me that they trusted us and that they believed in us. I'm still trying to believe it myself at that point.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, full circle, we are now designing a new food hall at the State Fair, which is a big, new, sexy building. And so I love returning to the fair for our 20th party because it's where it all started, and it's also very current.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So who was us at the time? Did you start with just you, or did you have a little team? How did that
I
work?
had a business partner, actually. When I started, there was a guy that I worked with at my old firm, and we were work friends. We weren't really as much personal friends, but we respected each other. We worked well together, and we knew how to do very different things at the firm.
Okay.
He did all the private work. I did all the public work. He was a little more technical with the drawings. I could do that, but he did larger projects. I did smaller projects, but I did projects Like I won I had the relationships, I won the project, I negotiated the contract, I did the drawings, and then I finished the construction, and then I went out and got the next one. He worked on these big projects for years at a time where he was sort of just in the drawings.
Okay.
I wrote the specs. So we simplified it to say, I'll win the work and he'll get the work done. And he wanted to have his own firm. I wanted to have my own firm. One day, he also had a new baby.
Nice. Little daycare in the office.
Yeah, exactly. We have pictures of us driving to job sites with our two, they're now 21, each of them 21-year-olds or 1-year-olds in the back seat, in the car seats, asleep with their heads cocked to the side. So cute. But yeah, we started together and we were quite compatible in that in our skill sets. And it was a good strategy because we were immediately trusted as not just one person. Mm-hmm. And then we had our very first employee was actually my dad.
Very cool.
So he's not an architect, he's a finance guy. And so he set us up like a big business from the start. I always talk about the importance of hiring people who are smarter than you, of course, but also have skills that you don't have. He had all the business skills that we didn't learn in architecture school and helped us with banking and borrowing and leasing and every kind of relationship, insurance and legal, all things that we knew nothing about, and set us up for success as if we were a big business from day one. So that was a secret weapon, if you will.
That's very cool.
Big Pixel builds world-class custom software and amazing apps. Our team of pros puts passion into every one of our projects. Our design-infused development leans heavily on delivering a great experience for our clients and their clients. From startups to enterprises, we can help craft your ideas into real-world products that help your business do better business.
So you're the cheerleader. Is that
Yes.
100% of your job now?
No, strategy is a big part, vision for the firm. Any really hard problems usually make their way to me.
Fair.
If somebody hasn't solved it, if it comes to me, people have really tried and have struggled with it, and so they'll ask me for support, which I love. I would say that I am really, really interested in pouring into people in the firm, and so if there's a way for me to spend time getting to know them, understand what their little hurdles or challenges are. I tell them I've made every mistake in the book. And so if I can spitball with you, if I can talk about how are you going to go in and make this presentation when you're worried about this or you're unsure about that, let's practice. Let's try it. Let's look at the design and see if there's anything we can do to make it better. So I'm a resource, I would say. I would say big vision strategy, just like any CEO. Really, risk mitigation is a big part of the CEO's job. Looking ahead. And then a cheerleader and a resource.
So I want to loop back to something you said earlier. You said that your job, a big part of your job, is to be the external cheerleader. Yeah. What does that look like practically?
I mean, it's basically PR. Like I'm going out and talking to people. I do a lot of public speaking. I'm here with you today. I'm excited to share about HH architecture on your podcast. Friday, I'm speaking on an executive entrepreneurial panel for JP Morgan Chase. And so I'm talking about my journey as an executive, but I'm talking about the firm. Yeah. And I've been fortunate to speak in a number of events over the years, and that's been really special to me to get to tell stories. Love stories. Serving with the chamber, serving on committees and boards, sponsoring events, getting our name out there.
How does that work? So I'm gearing these questions because I'm imagining an audience member who's got a company that is not brand new. They're trying to take it up to another level, maybe get up to where you are. So I'm asking questions, how did you get there? And so sponsorship, I hear, that seems so counterintuitive. You're a company, you don't have tons of money sitting around, just like no company really, some do, but mine doesn't. Right. And they all want money. And so they're saying, hey, if you gave us $20,000, because they're never small checks. It's not like anybody needs $200. They want $20,000 for a year of sponsorship of some sort, and they'll promise you X, Y, and Z. Your name will be on this, whatever. You get to intro someone. How does that practically work, and does it work?
Yeah, I actually just don't see it as something that we should do to get something back from. I see it more as this organization has helped me and now I want to give back, or I want to continue to reinvest. So where we started with philanthropic giving and or sponsorships was with our clients. So a lot of our clients have a charitable arm. And so if Fayetteville Tech Community College has hired us to do a bunch of buildings over the years, which they have a foundation, it funds scholarships for students. I feel like they've invested in HH and we're going to invest in them. So I sponsor their golf tournament or whatever. And it did start out in small amounts, in the hundreds. And sometimes it still can. Every once in a while you get those asks for something that's very meaningful to someone. They're going to do a bike ride for MS or something like that. For the larger organizations like the Chamber, I feel like I did not start out sponsoring at all. Not at all. I started out attending events that spoke to me for some reason. Mm-hmm. And I would say dip your toe in. To anyone that's thinking about it, just start small, because I don't think you want to get overwhelmed too quickly.
Yeah.
You could go to a Chamber event like 3 times a day if you wanted to, which is awesome. But I think what I started out doing is saying, I want to just see what this is all about. And I would go and I would like it. Certain events spoke to me more than others. And then I would say, okay, I'm going to start noticing these events. I'm going to start plugging into these events. And then there are different levels of the Chamber where you can become a member at the board of advisor level. That gets you access to the board of directors a couple times a year. You get to have the joint meetings. So then you get to hear a little more about what's going on and what are the projects the Chamber is taking on to make our society better for businesses, because we're trying to attract and retain talent. And so if we're pushing to have our airport be better, or pushing to get rid of a bathroom bill or whatever, we need to hear and see what are we doing as a Chamber to make schools better, make libraries better. Once I started plugging into that and getting really excited about that, then I got asked to do more. Would you help with this? Would you help with that? Yes, I'd love to. So really my sponsorships happened after I began to feel that the Chamber had invested a lot in me and my company, and I wanted to give back. So
even though
the way I see it,
because they sell it to you as your company's going to benefit if you do this, right? Oh, your name will be up here and you get to introduce, you get all this face time and people will build your clout. So they're trying to sell it as but you're almost flipping it to it's philanthropic.
That's the way I see it. Yes, of course. I think it's wonderful that we get our name out there. We've got to get our name out there. If we're trying to establish ourselves as a credible firm in this market, we've got to get our name out there. But I also just believe that if the Chamber is working on my behalf for the greater good, then I can get on board with that and I can help with that. So that's how I see it. Yes, it's wonderful to get our names out there, and we should. There's nothing wrong with that. We're in business.
Sure.
We're in business for business. But I just think that the Chamber is doing so much advocacy work and so much work to protect our region from complacency, from issues. If we continue to think that we are the absolute best place of all time, we land on all these national lists, if we continue to just rest on our laurels and say we are the best, we are going to fall short.
Fair.
So we have to fight that, and investing in economic development, investing in advocacy work for our region, to me, is a no-brainer when it comes to protecting the assets that we have.
So where do you see HH in, let's assume green fields, right? It's just a better question. 5-10 years from now, or it may be even further than that. Do you see this as a legacy business, or is this, I don't know, is architecture one of those things that you sell in like a financial business or something like that, and that's how you exit? Or is this, hey, kids to come? I know your son wants to be jealous, so that doesn't work. But maybe other partners might want their kids involved. Like, how do you see you riding off into the sunset? How does that work?
So all those things happen in architecture for sure. There are mergers and acquisitions every day in the architecture, engineering, and construction AEC industry. We see it a lot. In fact, just 2 Durham architecture firms just merged or were acquired in the last week. So that's very common. We get approached a lot about acquisition. Our feeling and our thought is never be unwilling to have a conversation with somebody, but really the goal for our firm is to grow from within. And so the 3 business partners that I have today are not the business partner that I started with. So I bought him out early on and ran the firm on my own for a long time. And then these 3 that I have as partners today actually started as employees and put in all kinds of work, and they really rose to the top. I did a very, what I think was a fair and analytical and strategic look at the time that I was looking at employees who might be partner material, and these 3 just basically rose to the top. They were at different times, but
Sure. So they're very different places in their career. So these are younger
Yes.
people.
2 of them are younger than me for sure. One's a little bit older, but not much. And so what we have is, I think, a great succession plan in that they are in different places in their career, as you said, and they are in varying levels of their journey. Janessa, for example, is getting her MBA right now. And she's made it very clear, I'm doing this so that I can really bring more business acumen to my job at the firm.
And just wander off.
Not to go somewhere else. At least that's how she's saying it.
So for now, yeah.
But I very much believe it because I see how hard she's working and how much she believes in it. And so how do I see myself riding off into the sunset is actually a very gradual sort of decline over time. Decline, it sounds like a bad word, but hopefully it's not my physical decline.
Sure.
My demise. But I think that I had some mentors who one never wanted to leave and never believed anything would happen. And then he got really sick and unfortunately had to exit very quickly. And it was very, I think it was very chaotic for the firm. And then another one promised to leave and then didn't really want to go.
That one I see a lot.
Yeah, right. And I can understand it actually.
It's your baby.
It's your baby.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is be very intentional and thoughtful about a time frame. And so we actually have written it into our bylaws that between the ages of 63 and 68, you can exit with no penalty. Because prior to age 63, your shares are going to get discounted.
Oh, okay.
So there's a disincentivized.
So you have to stay till you're in the sweet spot?
63 to 68. By 68, you can no longer be an owner in the firm.
Oh, wow.
Period. And I put that in there knowing that it's coming for
It's
me.
coming for you, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we put that in the Constitution? Going off to the side thing.
That's another podcast.
That's a different, we could have so many podcasts. Okay, so I know you're not near 68, so you're going to keep doing your thing. But you only have one child, right?
I know I have 2.
You have 2
I have
children.
a 16-year-old and a 21-year-old.
So your 16-year-old, I know your 21-year-old's the cellist,
Yes.
so he's probably not going to do architecture.
Yes.
But if your 16-year-old suddenly said, man, this is where I want to be, is there room for that? Is that a plan, or is that like...
It's
this
definitely not the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would be shocked
Sure, yeah, I'm the same with my
if
kids.
she wanted to do that. That's really not in the cards. And I don't think that's in the plan for any of the partners, but we don't really know because some of them are 2. Some of their
prodigies.
the kids are small, but we don't know yet. But I think that, no, we want to cultivate the talent at the firm and grow from within. And not everybody wants to be an owner. Not everyone should be an owner.
That's true.
And so I do believe that it's important to not do it just based on they've been here a long time or they've worked really hard or whatever. It's got to have,
That's a hard thing, right?
it is a hard thing. It's a very hard thing.
You have a talented person who's been with you for X years, lots, let's just assume a lot.
Yes.
And their expectations in their head, that's not your role here. We have great plans for you. You can never say that out loud. But boy, that's hard.
It's important to be honest with people. I think it's important to look at, yes, what are your strengths and how can we best leverage them to your benefit and so that you will find fulfillment.
I heard a thing that people will rise in the ranks up to their capabilities. That's why you see so many bad middle managers, because that's as far as they can ever get. I find that to be not my company, but we're small still, so we don't really have that. But I see that. If you've worked at any company of any size, there's like a gaggle of just managers that are just useless. And you're like, yeah. Anyway. All right, so this is the question we ask every guest. Speaking, put your mind at three pieces of advice you would give to a new entrepreneur, new owner of a company getting started, what would you say to them to get them to that next level?
Get out of the way. So part of my story and why Dane and Seiler became partners initially is because I actually was the sole owner of the firm. I left for China for 5 weeks on a global fellowship, Eisenhower fellowship.
Very cool.
And I was told by my IT company that you cannot access your server, you cannot access your email, you will put the firm at risk. So I decide I'm going to go for 5 weeks. Nobody else is an owner, but y'all take care of it. And I hired somebody to triage my email. And
Wow.
yeah, and I walked away and I told all my clients, you cannot contact me. I cannot help you. You've got to work with Seiler, Dave, and all these wonderful people at the firm. And that was hard. That was really
I don't
hard.
know if I could do.
I even had a client say, you can't go. And I was like, well, what do you mean I can't go? And he was just afraid because we had a really big project.
Yeah.
And he didn't want things to go off the rails. But Seiler helped him. And we're scalable to this point. So my point is, if I hadn't left, Seiler never would have gotten out from under my shadow. Dave never would have been able to take over and do all this stuff and show the clients that they could. The clients would have just kept coming to me.
Sure.
And so I don't sit here today and say, I had this brilliant business plan that I was going to exit and get out of the way and elevate my people. No, I had my hands like death grip and they were peeled off and I was forced into doing this. But looking back, there could not have been a better thing for the firm. It gave me the ability to see and have perspective and get out of the grind.
Yeah.
It gave them a chance to rise up. It gave everybody a chance to rise up. And suddenly the firm just doesn't live and die by me.
Yeah.
It's going to outlive me. And that's a beautiful thing. That's one. Okay, get out of the way. I think you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know everything. When I was starting out, I was so worried that I had to be so over-prepared. What if they ask me this? What if they, you can just get back to somebody. You can bring other people into the conversation. It's okay to say, let me check on that. Let me think on that. There is no need for you to be the CPA, the chief legal, that you don't know all those answers, and that's a good thing. You don't want to be the expert on all these issues. And trying to be everything to everybody is just exhausting and silly.
Yeah.
But we all do it, right? We all believe that everything is going to live and die by us, and we've got to be there for every conversation, and that is just not true. And so if you really want to get to what's important, and you want to say that you trust other people, so I would say you don't need to have all the answers. And you definitely don't have to have the answers all right away. So that's 2. What is my third one going to be? Ooh, I don't know.
I should make this 10 just to make you square.
Good Lord. I think it's really important to put the work away.
Oh, okay.
I definitely take weekends. I'm not saying that I don't occasionally check things, but I do not spend the weekend working anymore. I did in the beginning, I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
I worked every night, all the things, the crazy hours. But as often as I could to really shut it down and be present with my family or do something for myself, I do believe that has been a secret to my success. Because when I'm in, I'm all in. And when I'm off, I'm pretty off. And my husband always is like, wow, you're doing a really good job. Because he'll be like, it'll be Sunday, and he'll be like, what's your week look like? And I'm like, haven't looked at it yet. I'm not looking at it yet.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm in my weekend zone. And he's like, wow, you mean it? And that's not something that I see everybody doing. Because it's, in America, it's really hard.
It's really hard to put this down. I have a rule if I go on vacation, which I purposefully take time off to allow the company to run on its own to see what happens. But my rule is I literally will delete Slack and email from my phone. So I am literally, unless you can text me, I guess that might, but they won't.
But you just won't see all the chatter.
I won't see anything happening on purpose. And my wife can't do that.
Yeah.
She works with us. She owns half the company, and she works with us doing our HR and payroll. And so she's like, I can't let a whole week go by without. And what's funny is that creates a really interesting dynamic because she's in it, and I don't want to know a thing. And she's like, never mind, I can't. And so, but it is interesting how
everybody's different.
Some people can't put it down.
And you have to know yourself, obviously. Like, that's going to cause you more anxiety, then by all means, do you. But I just find, yes, that I'm better if I take pauses and breaks from it. And I agree. My husband had a boss, actually. I learned a lot from some of the bad bosses that my husband had.
Absolutely.
He would come home and say stuff, and I'd be like, do I do that?
Yeah, I don't want to do that, yeah.
So he had a boss that would like stress about going on vacation and the last minute cancel the vacation and tell staff, I just don't think that I can really go.
Oh.
And basically it was, you can't handle it.
Yeah, I have zero confidence in you whatsoever.
Exactly. And that's the message they heard every time, loud and clear. And so they were paralyzed to do anything. The whole thing was just a mess. And so I really encourage folks, everything will be fine. Make a decision. Do your best. Everyone is doing their absolute best, and they are doing it on behalf of the firm. And so if there is a mistake, we will clean it up. It will be okay.
That reminds me of a story. The first time I ever took a vacation as the owner of my company, it'd been 5 or 6 years, finally getting to the point where we're somewhat stable. Carl, who was my current director of operations, was just a project manager then, but he was like one of 3 we had on our team. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go on vacation. And we went on a week-long cruise. And back then, there was no internet on the cruise.
Right. That was the big one.
So I was gone. And so I'm texting, like, we're in Florida going to Cape Canaveral, I guess, where you get on the boat. And I'm texting, like, the moment I'm stepping up, okay, I'm going, man, I'm going. I leave. He does a fabulous job, but one of our clients tried to poach him.
Oh, no.
While I was, they knew I was gone. Took that as the opportunity to approach him. Thankfully, he said no.
That's great.
But they tried to, like, hey, we think because they wanted to open up a development division of their company, and he was leading our devs. And man, yeah, so I come back and he tells me this wild story. I'm like, I'm never going on vacation.
That was like the fear that you hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, like, that came out of left field. Like, what? How?
It always shows that whatever I'm worried about, it's the wrong thing.
That's fair. That's fair. So if
Not
anyone
worried.
wants to learn more about you and your firm, tell us where we can.
Oh, hh-arch.com.
hh-arch. Okay, we'll put that link in the show notes. And LinkedIn, are you busy in LinkedIn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll find you on LinkedIn. Some people use their name. I've noticed that. Some people have codes.
Oh, no. I think I'm Kristen M. Hess.
Okay, so I think mine has a code at the end. I don't even know that. Anyway, okay, we'll put that as a little show notes. And thank you so very much. This has been so much fun.
David, I appreciate it. It was really fun to be with you.
Good deal. And on that note, we are out. Thank you all very much. We'll be back next week.
That wraps up this episode of the BizDev Podcast. Thanks for listening. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at hello@thebigpixel.net or connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, and LinkedIn. BizDev is a production of Big Pixel, a US-based provider of UX, design, strategy, and custom software. This podcast is edited by Matt McCracken, yes, that is his name, and me, Christy Pronto, marketing guru for Big Pixel.